We've all been in situations where we need to walk away from a relationship or connection that is no longer serving us. It could be deciding to part ways with a toxic friend, leaving a stifling job, or ending a romantic partnership that has run its course. Whatever the circumstance, the process of departure doesn't have to inflict unnecessary pain and damage. The timeless wisdom of Stoic philosophy provides a roadmap of ways for extricating yourself with grace and compassion without unnecessarily hurting your counterpart. 1. Thank them. When you have to leave someone, whether it's ending a romantic relationship or breaking off a friendship, take the time to genuinely thank them for what they brought to your life. Don't just dismiss or gloss over the positive impact they had. Reflect on the specific ways this person enriched your journey, even if the situation became tough at the end. Maybe they helped you grow tremendously, stood by you through a difficult time, or showed you a new wonderful side of life. Verbalizing authentic gratitude and appreciation for their role honors the value of the connection. It demonstrates your relationship mattered and wasn't just meaningless. As you part ways, look them in the eye and express heartfelt thanks for the gifts and growth they afforded you, however big or small. This provides closure and leaves the door open for respectful separation. A gesture of gratitude prevents them from feeling like a mere casualty or regret in your life story. 2. Offer to support them. Even if you are the one initiating the break, that doesn't mean the other person won't need support and compassion through their own transition. The situation may be devastating for them in ways you can't fully appreciate. Offer yourself as an empathetic ear if they need to process preliminary waves of grief or confusion. Let them know you're available to have caring conversations, share resources for counseling or support groups, or to help them establish a new living situation if relevant. Make it clear you want their healing as much as your own conscious uncoupling. This olive branch preserves their dignity and sense of mattering to you. However, be cautious about overstepping boundaries or making inflated promises of being their therapist through the entire emotional process. Simply open the door for receiving transitional support and care from you in sustainable ways as they begin picking up the pieces. Sometimes the greatest gift is showing you hold sacred space for their human experience. 3. Listen to them. When you sit down to have the conversation about needing to part ways, don't just unload a monologue about your reasons and perspective. Approach it as a dialogue where you create room to deeply listen to how they are receiving this news and any feelings they need to express in that moment. Let them share their emotional world openly without judging, invalidating, or arguing against how they feel. Just listen with an open heart, free of defenses. Avoid justifying your choice or debating the validity of their reaction. This isn't about rational convincing, it's about bearing witness to their vulnerable inner experience caused by this loss. True listening is an act of incredible compassion. It says, I may not agree, but I'm present with your lived reality in this tragic moment. It prevents disastrous conversational cyclones where both parties become engulfed in trying to assert their point of view. One person's pain is being prioritized over the burning need to be right or rationalize. This simple act of listening airs out residue that could otherwise fester into resentment. 4. Be honest and clear. When leaving someone, it's tempting to beat around the bush, obscure the full truth, or hide behind vague platitudes like, it's not you, it's me. While this approach may avoid conflict in the moment, it's ultimately disrespectful and only delays the emotional reckoning needing to happen. Have the strength of character to be radically honest about your reasons for needing to go, without lashing out in emotional hostility. If there were betrayals, fundamental incompatibilities, or core emotional neglect, name them with plain speech. Lying or hiding behind obfuscating language to protect their feelings is an illusion that will backfire. Be clear, direct, and specific, but do so through the lens of personal ownership over your own experiences and decisions. Use I-me statements about how you've been emotionally affected and what you now need to prioritize for your well-being. Speak challenging truths without any lashing meanness. Honesty and clarity may sting, but ultimately they preserve dignity and allow reality to take shape. 5. Choose the right setting. While there's no perfect scenario for a devastating conversation, Put ample thought into creating an appropriate setting that facilitates the delicate situation at hand. Don't blurt out something so seismic in passing or in an emotionally charged state. Find a private location where you won't be interrupted, and neither party will need to keep up appearances in front of an audience. A public setting could force someone to bottle up or mask their vulnerable emotional reaction out of perceived propriety. Let there be the freedom to have the raw human experience this calls for. Similarly, having this talk at someone's home could create a traumatic association with that space that lingers long after. Choose a neutral, on common ground territory if possible. Thoughtfully consider the timing and environment to create the safest containment possible for the psychic storm about to be unleashed within their inner world. Setting the supportive and caring holding space demonstrates your intentionality and compassion. 6. Have an open and honest conversation. If you know you need to end a relationship or connection, don't just ghost them or blindside the person out of nowhere. That creates immense confusion and hurt. Instead, have a frank but caring conversation where you explain your reasons for leaving. Give them a chance to understand your perspective and ask questions. By having an open dialogue, it removes the blindsiding sting and allows for closure. Be careful, though, not to unload harsh criticisms or dredge up past grievances during this talk. That will only spark defensiveness and pain. Focus on using I statements about your emotions and reasons rather than attacking their character. End the conversation on as positive a note as possible, expressing your gratitude for the time you had together. An honest but compassionate discussion goes a long way. An open and honest conversation also allows you to take ownership of your decision in a respectful way. Avoid blame or making the other person feel like a victim. Instead, frame it as a matter of personal growth, changing needs, or realizations you've come to about yourself. This helps prevent them from internalizing it as a pure rejection of who they are. 7. Give them space after. Once you've had the conversation expressing your need to part ways, don't try to force a response or resolution immediately after. That puts the other person on the extreme defensive when emotions are hot. Instead, give them the gift of space and time to process everything you discussed. Let the dust settle before trying to talk more about the practical logistics of separating lives. Pushing too hard for rationality or demanding they get over it quickly will only breed resentment. During this period of space, resist the urge to check in frequently or monitor their healing process. As difficult as it may be, you have to allow them to feel the full weight of the loss without your involvement. Inserting yourself repeatedly, even with good intentions, can reopen wounds and disrupt their personal journey. Trust that time and distance will eventually bring greater clarity. 8. Don't try to stay friends right away. A common mistake is prematurely suggesting you stay friends after ending a close relationship, even a platonic one. This careless statement feels enormously invalidating to the other person whose world was just rocked. It comes across as you expecting to keep all the same intimacy and connection immediately with none of the commitment or responsibilities. That's unrealistic and unfair. Instead, make a clean break for a set boundary period of time. 6 months to a year works for many situations. This allows both people space to process the loss, grieve, and restart their lives individually. You can revisit discussing a friendship dynamic later once enough healing has occurred. But putting that expectation out too soon feels glib and inconsiderate. Even if you know the friendship could potentially be revisited down the road, avoid discussing that prospect immediately after the breakup. Bringing it up assumes a level of detachment and equanimity that likely doesn't exist yet for the other person. Let that discussion remain in the future for when enough emotional separation has occurred. 9. Don't cause additional drama. When leaving someone, be the mature party who handles it with poise and discretion. Don't take low blows like trying to turn mutual friends against them, bad-mouthing them, airing dirty laundry publicly on social media, or retaliating against their life and reputation in petty ways. Resist the temptation to create dramas that become a circus fueled by gossip, provocations, and escalations. The more muddied and volatile the breakup, the worse the sustained hurt. Avoid wreckage that prevents a clean break able to heal. Opt for calm maturity that preserves the other person's dignity and your own. Be solutions-oriented about equity, untangling shared logistics like housing or finances. Don't drag them into unnecessary wars of emotional bloodletting after the initial hard discussion. Your goal is transition, not destruction. Any dramatic retaliation or attempts to punish the other person will only contaminate your own heart with negativity and make it harder to one day find peace. The highest form of maturity is maintaining your dignity and purity of intention, regardless of how they choose to act. Be an example of the very virtues you want to see reflected back to you. 10. Check your culpability. While the other person's actions may have ultimately necessitated the break, check yourself on contributing factors too. Did you possibly send mixed messages, withdraw affection inexplicably, or otherwise sow seeds of confusion before dropping a bomb on them? It's easy to convince ourselves we're blameless heroes when likely both parties made choices leading to this unfortunate conclusion. Showing you understand your role in how things transpired, without overly apologizing or immobilizing yourself with guilt, demonstrates self-awareness. It validates their feelings that it wasn't completely one-sided. This promotes understanding over feeling solely vilified. An ounce of accountability goes a long way. Looking at your own culpability isn't about wallowing in regret or blaming yourself entirely. It's about taking a balanced, objective accounting of how both people's actions, inactions, and imperfections confluence to this tragic but inevitable conclusion. Self-compassion allows you to examine your role without judgment, opening the doorway to wisdom. 11. Leave with compassion. No matter the circumstances, try to leave with an underlying compassion toward this person's humanity. Unless they were truly monstrous, chances are they did the best they could with their own limitations, fears, and emotional baggage. We're all flawed people struggling to grow and find fulfillment. Don't speak or act toward them with derision or hatred, but with empathy. Did things deteriorate due to mental health issues, past trauma influences, or other personal challenges? Hold space for those complexities without excusing injurious behavior, but also without dehumanizing them. You're both imperfect people who couldn't make it work right now. Part with benevolence in your heart for their maximum potential someday. Extending compassion doesn't mean you have to remain closely tied to this person's life either. You can leave with love by making internal wishes for their future happiness and healing while maintaining protective boundaries. Compassion creates the energy for a clean break and fresh start for all involved. 12. Validate their feelings. When you have the conversation about needing to end the relationship or connection, make sure to validate the other person's feelings that will inevitably arise. Don't dismiss or diminish the intense emotions they may express, like hurt, anger, confusion, or devastation. Reflect back that you understand this is an extremely painful situation for them and that their feelings are valid and expected. Let them know it's okay to be a mess of emotions right now. Judging or pathologizing their response will only breed more trauma. Validating their feelings doesn't mean you are agreeing with potential false narratives or accusations they may lash out with. It simply means acknowledging the human-level sadness, rejection, and emotional cyclone they are experiencing in this moment. Meeting them with that empathetic recognition helps to take the edge off rather than pouring salt in the wound. 13. Avoid the impulse to explain too much. There can be a temptation when leaving someone to over-explain every little reason, justification, and analysis in an attempt to create understanding. However, this often has the opposite effect of what you intend. The person on the receiving end likely can't fully absorb all the nuanced context and rationale in that moment. They are just trying to survive a sucker punch to their reality. Excessively detailing every micro-factor can feel like bewildering mental gymnastics rather than straightforward clarity. Stick to explaining your decision from a place of I statements about your emotional landscape and introspections. Avoid turning it into an examination of their flaws or attempting to defend yourself from potential claims before they've even been stated. When you keep it concise and centered in your personal truth, you create space for the hard pill to be swallowed gradually over time. 14. Make logistical arrangements first. If there are major logistical and practical entanglements that will need to be sorted out after leaving, like divorces, sharing custody of children, or untangling finances and living situations, it's wise to make those arrangements before having the big conversation. Having a clear, fair plan already mapped out for those complex matters prevents them from getting mired in raw emotional chaos immediately after dropping a bombshell. It shows you have put intentional thought into preparing for this next chapter in a grounded, responsible way. Conversely, launching a separation conversation without any forethought about practical realities can breed a sense of chaos and panic that obstructs processing the emotional transition. Taking the time to carefully handle major logistics first creates a semblance of order amidst the inner storm ahead. It demonstrates your level of care and respect for the other person's dignity. If you have made it this far, comment down below with the word 100% to confirm that you have received the knowledge from this video. For more interesting topics, make sure you watch the recommended video that you see on the screen right now. Thanks for watching.